Hey Phil, guess what day it is?
What day is it?
Four-link day!
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we'll be working on the Chevy S10 frame, getting everything ready to 4-link the rear end. I've never done it before, so I'm going to give it the best shot. It's going to be a triangulated 4-link rear end. Last video we ground off all the brackets, so this time we are actually going to start laying out, mocking up, making sure the frame is level, getting all the brackets where they're supposed to go, and hopefully tacking them in place. So let's get to it. So first thing we have to do is get the tires mounted on this rear end, get the rear end off the jack stands on the ground so we can level the frame, make sure everything's going to fit. Then I'm going to weld some brackets to the frame that will hold the rear end in place with the right pinion angle. Make sure it's centered exactly where it needs to be in the frame. Get that tacked into place so it does not move. Then we actually start installing all the brackets for the 4-link. Now the tires are back on the rear end's off the jack stands. Now I'm going to work on actually leveling this frame out, and I think that should be ride height, even though the front's up on casters right now, it's aired out. So the front of the frame should be around 5 inches off the ground, which would be around ride height. And then when we air down, it'll actually sit on the ground. So if the front end is 5 inches off the ground, I want to make the frame level all the way back, which would put the back end at ride height with the tires on the ground. So that's what I'm working on now. We're definitely going to need to notch the frame, because right now I've got about 3 inches of clearance. I still need to go down a little bit more. I'm going to remove the rear brake lines on the axle to get those out of the way for welding, so they're not in the way. So let's do it. Got this 1-inch square tube right here. I'm going to cut this into 2 5-inch pieces, and that's going to be welded to the bottom of the frame, which will sit perfectly on top of the axle, which gives it the perfect ride height. And then the axle will actually weld to this as my spacer once everything's perfectly lined up and the pinion angle is perfect. Once I hit that point, then I can easily weld on the brackets for the 4-link. So I'm going to cut this right now into 2 5-inch pieces. Be right back. Right now, the rear end is perfectly centered in the frame. And all I have to do now is work on the pinion angle. The truck is sitting at a 4.5-inch ride height, which should be a perfect ride height for this truck. And then when it shuts off, it actually sits down on the ground. I am going to have to purchase or make my own notches for the rear frame, as I only have about 1-inch clearance right now at ride height, and it will not let me drop it down all the way. So that's what I'm going to be working on next, is the pinion angle and then tacking the rear end in place. We're checking the pinion angle on the transmission. checking the pinion angle of the rear end.
So right now we have both pinion angles perfectly set to about 3.5 to 4 degrees. So what you do is you take that little angle measuring device here and you put it on your transmission. And you take that angle. So to the right of the 90 degrees, we're pushing about 4 degrees. It's on the transmission. And we do the exact same thing on the rear end. So you take your angle finder, you put it right on here. Just about 4 degrees in the opposite direction of the transmission. So we are perfectly set up right now to set the 4-link up. Everything's tacked in place and we're ready to go. Right now I'm going to use this level to actually create a straight line down the frame, which the back 4-link will push up against. So I know I got this perfectly straight with the frame just like that. That should help with the positioning of the rear link on the axle. Let's see how this works. So I've got this all cleaned up around where it's going to weld to the axle here, in the pockets here, inside and out, so it's all ready to go and weld up. So let's get this repositioned back on the axle. Alright, so what we got going on here is the level runs perfectly parallel, spaced about 3/8 inches off the frame, which centers the bracket on the rear end. And that bracket is now perfectly level, front to back, left to right. And now that it's ready to tack in place. Break out the welder. Came out pretty good. That lower rod will connect right underneath the frame here. I have to slightly modify it a little bit, but very easy to do. Now we'll do the next side. Leveled front and back, and now I'm just checking the level side to side. both of the axle brackets welded on now for the lowers. I have the fronts of the lowers clamped to the frame on both sides. Seem to fit pretty good. Just tacked in place for now. I can adjust them if I need to. Next up, we need to work on the front brackets. So we'll see how that goes.
So right now I have all of the bars for the 4-link set to the same length. I'm just gonna hammer them, make sure they're perfectly level. I used a bolt through one side and then back through the other side to make sure they're exactly the same length. This is the template one. All the other links match up perfectly to this one. So once these are all locked down and locked in tight, I put anti-seize on all of the threads so they don't seize up on us for the future if we need to remove them. And next up, we'll be putting them onto the rear end. Links are on. I'm back.
Okay everyone, the camera memory card got completely full. I didn't realize it, so I totally missed the whole finishing process of doing this triangulated 4-link. So right now, this is where we're sitting right now. All the top brackets are tacked into place. We're actually using the bag mounts. We customized a bracket off of the bag mount that's tacked into the axle. The bag will end up going right here. Same on the other side. Then the triangulated 4-link goes out to the frame on the tops of the frame. And then you can see the lower bars connected underneath the axle. And those are straight out. So this is a full triangulated axle setup. It came out really nice. I think it articulates really well. I can lift the frame up just a little bit, but right now I only have about an inch of clearance at ride height. So the next video we're actually going to be working on putting in the C-notches, which will go right here. There's going to be a C-notch right there around the axle. And then right here there's going to be a C-notch around this axle, which should give us at least 6 inches, 7 inches of clearance at ride height. And then when we lay the truck down completely, it'll actually lay the frame down. So as you can see, everything's coming along really nicely. So right now we're going to take off the bars, top and bottom bars, and get the actual rear end out of the way in preparation of doing the C-notches in the frame. So let's get to it.
Alright everyone, so that's going to be a wrap for this video. We got the entire triangulated 4-link installed, all the brackets are tacked in place, and the rear end has been removed. It's all in preparation for the next video, which we will C-notching the rear frame to give room for the axle to move up even higher when we bag the truck completely down. So please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification icon so you get notifications of future videos coming out, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.